I've decided that magnets are the best way to organise little bits. Most of the tools that I use are metal, they are magnetic, and this method is actually quite cheap and very versatile. It just means I can quickly get stuff off the desk, onto the wall, out of the way while I'm working on a project or making something. The alternative is something like this. Whenever I've found wardrobe rails or tubing out on the street, I normally pick it up, cut it down, and then double them up and just shove stuff in between. I mean, it's pretty effective. You know, it's a very small area and quite a lot of stuff is kind of rammed in here. This is kind of the shared tools. So we've got a flowery screwdriver. I did a similar thing with the clamps, so just two pieces of 2x2. I drilled a Forstner hole on opposite ends and just pushed the tubing through and then screwed that into the wall, and again all the clamps can go up there. Anyway, that was the old method. This is the new method. It's a little bit haphazard, but essentially the tools that I use really regularly go up here. So I've got my engineer squares, file, carpenter's bevel, the spanner for the router, a tiny little hammer, and just the sort of common drill bits, so generally 2 or 3 mil, 4 mil bits, a punch, and so on. Anyway, this is a really effective way of keeping stuff up off the bench, and I want to kind of extend it. So I bought these individual magnetic rails from Wilko's, from my local high road, and they're about £2 each, which is really cheap. So I got 5 up on the wall and I bought another 7. If you decide to just use them as they are in the sort of ABS housing that the magnetic strips come into, this something you need to do just to make sure your tools sit properly on this. If I pop something flat along there, you can see they're not entirely pushed in. So if something were to sit on the magnetic strips, it'd be very easy to push that and wobble it off one of the magnets, and potentially that could fall. So to avoid that, take the holder onto the vise and just make sure you pushed all the strips in as far as they go. You can see that's already pushed it in quite nicely. So that looks a lot flatter now. I did look to see if I could find just these sections by themselves, but I couldn't. And for £2, I mean, that's pretty cheap for such a long magnetic strip. You could screw these onto the edge of your workbench and quickly just get your tools away from the surface while you're working. You know, sometimes you just want to take things and just quickly move them away somewhere without having to walk across the room. I know it sounds lazy, but you know, if you're in the middle of making something, the last thing you want to do is shuffle along to just put something away. I've got one that I accidentally broke when I was putting the screw in, and what I'm going to do is see if I can push the magnets out. If it's easy and I don't end up breaking the magnet in there, I might just take all the magnets out and refit them onto a nice long strip. Kind of 3 mil bit. Ooh. I just drilled through the bloody magnet. That was really easy to do. Literally could not feel the difference between the plastic and the magnet. Knocked it out. So it is glued down, and the reason why I couldn't feel the difference with the magnet is because it is like rubber. That is really unusual. So I don't think that's going to be an option for me now. God, it really does bend. I didn't realise you can, I mean, I know you can get magnetic tape, but is this a sort of variation of magnetic tape? It must be. Anyway, that's going to go in the bin now. So this strip of OSB board, which is an offcut from the floors, should be enough to add a little bit more material behind the magnetic strips, so I have room to reach and actually pull things off. If I had a bigger table saw, I would just bevel this about 1 or 2 mil, but I don't, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. So when I put the shelving up here, there was a bit of a gap, so I just stuck an offcut just to hide it. So it's already a little bit raised, but that means I can follow that line because I know that's square. So I'm using my thumb to line that piece of OSB with the other. This is the best bit, putting your brush. Oh man, that is so good. It does help if the bit you're putting onto the magnet is flat. So for example, this screwdriver has 4 flat edges. I guess it's for putting a spanner on when you're undoing or tightening something up. That clips on a lot better than something that's round, which can roll around and twist a lot easier. Oh, that's amazing. I've got a load of these magnets as well, which are sort of long rectangular ones, and you can use these as well. So for example, with this 3D printer, I need to use this spatula quite often to flip the pieces off. Okay, you can also make stuff up with the magnets for things which are not magnetic. So this thing here, even though it's made out of metal, it's barely magnetic. What I can do, so just be careful because these are quite strong magnets, and if you slip they will clip your fingers. There we go. Now I can just shove that like that. Okay, this is everything up for now. I'm going to buy a couple more just to double up these sections here. But what this means is the main tools that I use on a regular basis are at arm reach. And got the 3D printer printing a gear for the slit scan camera that I'll be working on, and they're holding pretty well despite the movement. Do a little quick shout out to Mr. Pocket 83 for sending me a really nice early Christmas present. I've also been inspired to try and make something with marbles as well myself. I have 2 very big bags, although these are much nicer colour than these ones that I'm holding in my hand. Also the tag is a little bit sinister. 131 marbles, jokes and gags, real glass and real fun. This child here is holding his stomach because he's eaten a marble and he has blocked his colon.